Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. And before we get into how the boys are, Henry Hill and Michael McCubbin that is, I want to give you a little update on Continental Club. Basically, thank you so much for sticking with us over the last 18 months while we've been filming remotely. But we have hopefully found a location to start shooting back on set, which we are waiting for a kit order from our overlords at Sky to buy for us, which should hopefully go through by hopefully next month. So from November, we found a location in South London. It looks really good and we're very, very excited about that. So please bear with us over the next few weeks. We will get back to interacting in person like normal human beings. But over to the lads. Henry, have you enjoyed the Champions League this week?
Yeah. I'm loving the overreaction of Manchester United coming back against Atalanta for the second Champions League game in a row. I mean, I actually think it's embarrassing. To call that a big European night at Old Trafford is embarrassing. Like, to scrape through once more against Villarreal. The reality is, like, they're going to get to the last 16 and get destroyed. But in my opinion, by whoever they come up against, because they've got fairly lucky. It is really just papering over the cracks at the moment. I don't know what McCubb thinks, but I mean,
someone's been watching too much Paul Scholes, I think. Paul Scholes
it's true.
Yeah, no, I'm not in total disagreement. I think the difference is that yesterday United actually performed quite well. I thought for a good 2/3 of the game, at least going forward. Whereas against Villarreal, like the entire team was just completely hapless and somehow managed to pull through just because Villarreal was so bad. Whereas like Atalanta, I think the defensively did become a bit unstuck in the second half, but I think equally United did play some actual good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a long time between now and the last 16, and United still aren't guaranteed to get there even now. So I think you just got to take it as it comes. Really, you know, United still have one of the best squads in Europe. By February, they may be in a much better place. So I think, I think it was just the nature of the victory really that got people going, wasn't it? But yeah, likewise. I mean, I'm not really worried about kind of what's to come in the Champions League so much as what's to come over the next few weekends with Liverpool coming up and Man City coming up and the rest of it. I mean, I think the real tests are still to come in that sense. But yeah, the Champions League's been really, really fun this week. I was watching the Bayern Munich highlights last night. That was a great game against Benfica.
They are so good.
Leroy Sané, like his free kick and just his general performance. It's so good to see him becoming one of the main men there now. Real Madrid, Henry's favourite man, Vinicius Jr. putting in another world-class display.
Yeah.
His second goal was just outrageous, man.
Yeah. I watched that. I was like, oh, damn.
You know what they're going to bring up on Continental Club?
No, it's... Yeah. Just... People keep liking to get at me for this, Joe Tomlinson included, although I'm not rising to him on Twitter. What I said was that he wasn't very good for a long time, and that is true. He is now playing very well, and I'm as happy as anyone. Did I think he could get to this point? Probably not, but his just calm in front of goal, even like the first, I think 4 of their goals this weekend against Shakhtar were pretty incredible. I think some of the moves, some of the passing, Modric's pass to like set through Vinicius for his first goal, just unreal. It was. I'm willing to accept like where I was wrong, but I don't think it was a completely misguided comment at the time. I also like to just quickly, Ajax, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Back again. What? I mean, to go and beat Dortmund that comfortably. There wasn't even like a
destroyed
Dortmund
them.
highlight. It was unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the Dortmund experiment. It's not an experiment. They appointed Marco Rose, one of the most up-and-coming managers in Europe, and it's just not working that well defensively for them, and they still are getting no better at stemming the flow of counter-attacks. They're still really weak defending set pieces, and it's just really strange. And I think what the decision to sell Thomas Delaney this summer, one of their only out-and-out defensive midfielders, to Sevilla for an absolute cut-price fee, just looks more bizarre as time goes on, with Axel Witsel having so many injury issues at the start of this year. Mo Dahoud, it's probably not his natural game in that holding role. So you're asking a lot of sort of Jude Bellingham, Emre Can when he's fit to cover defensively, which isn't really their game either. So yeah, that was, I think, my performance of the week, definitely from Ajax. One quick shout out. Did you guys see Morata's pass through to McKennie? It was one of the passes of the round. It was absolutely brilliant. And I'd love to see that from Morata. Didn't know he had that in his game. But anyway, let's park the Champions League for now, because today we are talking about the most underrated signings in Europe so far. So it's now late October. It's got to that stage of the season where we've all sort of, made our preliminary sort of views on whether signings are working or not working, which ones have flopped, which ones have excelled so far. And we want to do a positive episode today because we were a bit miserable last week talking about managers under pressure, and then Max Allegri's won 2 in a row. So Henry, we're going to kick off with a positive note, and there's nothing more positive than Arnaut Danjuma right now, suggested by friend of the show, Jack J. Collins from Ranks FC. Danjuma's been a pleasure to watch so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, unreal. I mean, there was a certain element of scepticism when they paid 25 million euros, club record signing, for a player who'd only really excelled in the Championship in recent times. I'll be honest, I was less skeptical about this. I've been following him closely in the Championship. Scored 17 and assisted 7 in 35 Championship games last season for Bournemouth. Even so, 25 million is a lot of money, but it looks like if he continues on the path that he's on at the moment, that looks like an absolute snip, which they're guaranteed to get a profit should they ever one day decide to move him on. To touch on that scepticism a bit more in the Premier League, I think he was quite unlucky of injuries, wasn't he? When he originally joined the Cherries, 0 goals, 0 assists in 14 games. So you're sort of wondering what he was all about. But then obviously he really did sort of come into his own in the lower divisions. Now he's just looking brilliant, isn't he? He's been phenomenal so far. 5 goals, 1 assist in 9 league and UCL games. From the left wing, he scored against Atleti, Atalanta, Brace versus Betis as well. He can shoot from outside the box. He can kind of shoot from anywhere. He's got a little bit of everything, which is what's quite exciting about him. He's managed to muscle his way back into the Netherlands squad. Got a goal in a bit of a cameo against Gibraltar. I'm not going to read too much into that, but it's for what is a very exciting Netherlands side, certainly under Louis van Gaal. I think he could be a really quality asset off the bench there. I'm a massive fan of him at the moment. Look at his stat numbers: 2.9 shots, 0.4 key passes, which shows you he's more the kind of guy who's trying to get on the end of these chances at the moment. And as we say, at Villarreal, a slightly stunted team attacking wise. A lot of their certainly last year their play went through Gerard Moreno, but it's to have someone who can sort of run off him and get at the end of knockdowns, etc. That's a vital kind of asset for them at the moment. Villarreal obviously not doing too great in the league, but still I think they could turn it around. They've obviously got Champions League football to deal with. Did get their sort of victory over Young Boys the other night. If we look else, 2.1 dribbles at a 55% completion rate. That shows us sort of a bit of flair on the ball. 0.88 expected goals per 90. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Only topped by Falcao in the whole division. Shout out to Falcao, by the way, as an underrated signing. Rayo Vallecano absolutely flying at the moment. 35-year-old Falcao back on the score sheet in La Liga. You absolutely love to see it. I've got a real soft spot for Rayo Vallecano. My old Spanish teacher used to be a huge fan, used to tell me all about it. So yeah, really thrilled to see them doing well. But yeah, it's Danjuma. Just what I'm not going to say he's an incredible player, but he looks very, very exciting for Villarreal, and they really need him at the moment. He looks like he's one of the more senior players. So I'm really pleased that this transfer has come good, considering that some people maybe didn't back it in the first place. Yeah,
I think it was just that scepticism over that first year in the Premier League. He also didn't have that great a record for working really hard off the ball. I think it was less than 0.6 tackles and interceptions per 90 last year. I thought that might cause a few issues with Unai Emery, knowing how much he wants his wingers to work and everyone to, commit to the sort of team ethic and the dynamic, really. But yeah, he's been one of Villarreal's best players at the start of this year, probably alongside Trigueros as well, who I think's taken a little leap in that number 10 slot as well. So fair play to Danjuma for proving a lot of skepticism to be completely false at the start of this year, and long may it continue, because Villarreal are a team that certainly need a little bit of a spark at times. But Cubs, let's move over to Italy and talk about Arshams' suggestion on Twitter. He's a big Inter Milan fan, and he suggested Edin Dzeko, who, like Danjuma, has been phenomenal at the start of this year, amidst a little bit of concerns when he initially signed, probably.
Yeah, I think those concerns were pretty legitimate as well. I feel like people were quite split. I was actually surprised at how many people were a fan of the Dzeko move to Inter, if I'm honest. Obviously, after losing Lukaku to Chelsea for what was very good money, to be fair. It was a free for Dzeko, so there wasn't that much to lose from it. But equally, I wasn't particularly convinced that he was going to kind of really light things up at the San Siro. Obviously, Lukaku's not impossible to replace. He got 30 goals and 10 assists in 40 games last term. And yeah, like Dzeko's recent record isn't that good. He's only scored more than 10 league goals once in the previous 3 seasons. And, it wasn't like he was injured for large parts of those or anything else. 35 years old now. He'd fallen out with Paulo Fonseca at Roma last year. So, yeah, it felt like Dzeko's career was kind of winding down. And he was being linked with kind of everyone at one point, wasn't he? Especially in the summer of 2020, when there seemed to be a bit of a merry-go-round going on with kind of Serie A strikers. And yeah, he started the season super strong, hasn't he? Kind of similarly to when he went to Roma from Man City. I think they only paid like 10 to 15 million for him, didn't they? And to be fair, he was in his peak years, but I think everyone was slightly surprised to see him banging at the kind of rate that he was after being such a bit part player towards his final days at City. But now at 35, he just seems ageless once again. Only Ciro Immobile's got more goals than him in the league. He's got 7 goals and 2 assists in 11 appearances in all competitions, including a goal and assist against Sheriff on Tuesday. His underlying numbers are decent as well. 2.1 shots, 1.8 from inside the area per 90. Not like amazing, but considering he's also creating nearly 2 chances a game as well for teammates, shows that he's really slotted into Simone Inzaghi's system really nicely. I think it does help to have someone like Lautaro Martinez alongside you, who's been playing in this kind of a similar kind of system for quite a while now. The Inter do still have a very strong core despite losing their kind of their most valuable players at least, and I think that's probably helped a lot. I think the kind of the leftover structure of the Antonio Conte years is still very much there, especially in the centre of the park, and I think that's definitely kind of helped a kind of natural goal scorer to slot in like him. And on the subject of Lautaro, he's on fire as well. 5 goals in 7 games, 1.13 expected goals and assists per 90 as well, which is just mad. I'm sure that will drop off a little bit, but yeah, it just goes to show that if you've got a very strong system in place, that you can lose one of the best strikers in the world, and the drop off hasn't so far at least been too bad. So yeah, for considering they got him on a free, Edin Dzeko has been one of the signings of the season so far.
Yeah, I think it's 100% deserved for sure. And I think it's a very interesting point about Lautaro Martinez. I think he was sort of criticised at points last year. No one doubted his ability, but maybe his finishing at certain points, and that seems to have really resolved. And then Dzeko, this game against Sheriff, which seems ridiculous considering the size of Sheriff. No disrespect to them, they've played exceptionally well in the Champions League so far, but it was probably Inter's most vital Champions League game for quite some time. And, he delivered 1 goal and 1 assist. That volley was absolutely beautiful as well. And he was central to the victory, which stands Inter in a lot better stead of qualifying out of the groups, which is what they haven't done since, I think, 2012-13 or maybe 2011-12. So it's been a long, long time. And Inter really need to get that monkey off their back as soon as possible. Let's move over to Scotland now. Haven't often got a mention on Continental Club, but Kyogo Furuhashi definitely deserves one. The 26-year-old striker was signed from Vissel Kobe in mid-July for £4.6 million, signing a 4-year deal, which seemed like quite a big commitment on a relatively unknown player, at least on these shores. But he had been killing it in Japan, to be totally honest. 50 goals in 111 games, including 16 in 22 games so far in 2021. So he's played a lot of football so far in 2021. And, the J-League, it's probably a greater standard, I would argue, across the board than the Chinese Super League. It probably doesn't have the same money, but Japan as a national team have been doing, pretty well over the last 10 years or so. One of the biggest teams in that Asian World Cup qualifying group for sure. And, with players like Iniesta, Podolski, etc. going to the league, it's definitely seemed to have upped some of the standards. And Kyogo seems like a product of that. He's only 5'7", but he can play centrally or on the left. And he's been electric so far. He's got 6 goals in 9 games for Celtic so far, including that well-taken opener against Ferencváros in the Europa League on Tuesday in that game that was rearranged to be on a Tuesday, so it was a slightly strange Europa League night for it. But a really nicely taken goal. He took it so early just before the Ferencváros keeper had had time to set, and he just looks like a quality addition. And Chris Hamill on Twitter is crooning about this guy and Jota every single week, and much deserved. His numbers look really, really strong. 2.3 shots, which is not absolutely massive, but you'd expect that to maybe rise slightly. He has played some of the games on the left as well. 1.1 key passes, just 0.4 dribbles, which you'd want slightly more than that. But it shows that maybe his game's more about the final third rather than entering the final third. He's more of a shooter than a dribbler per se. And he's been a sort of shining light in the boys' otherwise pretty underwhelming campaign so far. They're 4 points off Rangers, having lost 3 of their 9 Scottish League games. And they're in third place in the Europa League Group 2. Although we'll see what happens tonight between Leverkusen and Real Betis, I think is the game that's going on tonight, which should be an absolute thriller. So they might be even further behind in that reckoning as well. So Kyogo Furuhashi definitely deserves a shout out. Henry, a suggestion came in from Isak Krishnan, and that's Nuno Mendes, or Nuno Mensch, I should say, who joined from Sporting CP, joined PSG this summer, and he kind of went under the radar at the time on deadline day.
Yeah, just quickly, just on Celtic, like, it is really interesting that we're talking about them quickly. Like, they are obviously in such a transitional moment, but like Lyle Abada as well, Jota, they've got some real underrated signings there, which do look like the foundations of a prosperous future. But anyway, I'll let Chris Hamill bang on about Celtic in future weeks. But yeah, Nuno Mendes, it looked like out of all the signings that arrived, he obviously was the deadline day move. Deadline day moves can go either way, can't they? We heard a lot about him being offered up to Manchester City, and they've obviously rejected the opportunity to sign him. Didn't really want to spend that much money on a fullback, considering some of their hit and misses in previous seasons. And when you consider all the other PSG signings that did come in, Messi, Donnarumma, Sergio Ramos, Wijnaldum, obviously Hakimi, which looks incredible value for money, doesn't he, so far? Nuno Mendes did slip under the radar. He's joined for like an initial loan fee of about 7.5 million euros, but I think there's another option to add about another 40 million euros to that if it all goes well. And it looks like that could happen. He's only 19 years old, isn't he? And if there's a manager who's going to get the best out of their fullbacks, it is kind of Mauricio Pochettino. If you look what he did, certainly at Tottenham with the likes of Trippier, Danny Rose, he knows what he's doing in order to sort of produce these really quality players. And it looks as if Pochettino is beginning to really sort of ease Mendes into his squad. Abdou Diallo did actually start 7 of the opening 10 league games. But Mendes has started to be played more, at least 80 minutes in 3 of their last 4 league games. At the moment, he played the full 90 against City and Leipzig in the UCL. So that shows you just how much his boss trusts him at the moment. And his numbers do look brilliant, don't they? 3.7 tackles and interceptions, 1.7 dribbles, 50% completion rate. This is kind of what we were seeing with him at Sporting as well. He doesn't have a huge kind of creative output at the moment, but with a team like PSG, really, I think they do have to sometimes prioritise their defence. They've got so much attacking flair, obviously, going forward. To have someone like Mendes, who's for a 19-year-old fresh into a new league with only really 1 year of senior experience under his belt, to be coming in and producing these kind of high attacking numbers, that's pretty remarkable. 36 passes per game as well, 91% passing accuracy. He looks very, very composed on the ball. He's obviously a feature of the Portuguese national team at the moment. So yeah, I think this is the unsung signing of PSG's pack at the moment. And let's face it, he could be there for a very, very long time. This is a name I think we're going to be talking about for years to come. Because if the last 18 months of his career are anything to go by, he's a very special talent.
Yeah, I think for a 19-year-old to adapt to a club like PSG, with all the superstars they've got there, with all the superstars they brought in this summer, and to arguably look like one of their better signings, I think is a major achievement, and fair play to them. I thought PSG were really, really lucky against Leipzig, to be totally honest. I thought Leipzig created numerous high-quality chances. PSG really ineffective at closing them down, particularly from crossing areas as well. And yeah, I know it could have ended up 4-2 if Mbappe tucked away that penalty. Terrible penalty again by Mbappe. Got quite an inconsistent record from the spot at the moment, but yeah, I think that really, I've got a fly coming into my face at the moment. That really flattered PSG, that result in the end. Let's talk about Felipe Anderson, suggested by Joe D. Shepherd. He was terrible at Porto last season. Let's have it right. He didn't have any known injuries, but he only made 5 Primera Liga appearances, with just one of those a start. Basically what happened was he was brought in against Sergio Conceição's wishes, or at least not with his approval, and he only got a total of 191 minutes in the league and Champions League. Conceição criticised his work rate, wasn't in his squad even for 16 of their 34 league games. But he's gone to Lazio now. 3 goals and 2 assists in 8 games so far, including a goal and assist against Roma and a strike against Inter at the weekend, where he was absolutely excellent in that game, in that comeback win for Lazio in that very ill-tempered game between them and Inter Milan. And his underlying numbers, very impressive. 1.5 shots, over 2 key passes per game, 3.2 dribbles, which is fantastic. He's getting back to that form that saw him really shine in the Premier League in that first year with West Ham before that disappointing second year. And he's now at 0.54 expected goals and assists per 90, which is his highest record since he was at Lazio in 2017-18, which of course persuaded West Ham to fork out, I think it was over £40 million for him. So he went for a lot of money, and I'm glad to see at 28, he's still got plenty of time left. Some players just really shine in certain environments. He's clearly very comfortable in Rome, knows the club, knows the setup, and it's just really working out well for him. And I'm pleased for him after a really disastrous year in Portugal last year. My Cubs, talking of a player going to Italy, Andre Frank Zambo and Gisa at the session of At the Bridge Pod. What a signing for Napoli so far.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, hasn't he? Obviously, Napoli didn't sign Bakayoko in the end after his loan spell. And I think that left a little bit of a hole in that midfield. But Anguissa has kind of filled it perfectly, hasn't he? Signed on loan for 650k, the loan fee at least. Napoli are still yet to drop points in the league. He's played in pretty much every game. He's averaging 3.3 tackles and interceptions per game. He's even taking over a shot a game. He's completing 2.2 dribbles. He's making 20 pressures a game. So he's really doing everything in that midfield and allowing Ruiz and Zielinski to kind of push further forward. He's just been the perfect signing for them, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant and absolutely central to this Napoli team that, every week it goes on, I'm just getting a little bit more confident that they can actually do this. I think they've got fantastic depth in nearly every area except for their defence. And, Victor Osimhen up front has probably been the outstanding centre-forward in the league so far, I would argue. Keep it going, Napoli. Henry, have you got any other shouts before we wrap up this section?
Yeah, there are a few others, actually. I think we have to talk about Mike Maignan. That was the suggestion from Le Nasso. He's been so good since he's joined AC Milan. Obviously, massive shoes to fill with Donnarumma moving to PSG, but he's already saved 1.5 xg, more than he's expected. That's 4th in Serie A, and he ranks 3rd for stopping crosses and 2nd for defensive actions outside the penalty area. So kind of continuing what we saw at Lille. He loves to sort of break the line and get involved, and he's sort of a fearless keeper. So great signing once again by Maldini over at AC Milan. Luis Maximiano for Granada. He's been another keeper who's been brilliant, actually. He looks like he's got sort of a big future, certainly in Spain and elsewhere. So he's a lot of people raving about him on Twitter. And I just want to give one shout out to Kamaldeen Sulemana from Rennes, who's their Ghanaian, 19 years old. He scored and assisted like 5 in his last 4 games or something like that for PSG. Absolutely tore up for Rennes. He tore up PSG. Got something like 3 tackles, 3 dribbles, 3 shots as well. He's really impressive. Only 19. Bear in mind that Jeremy Doku's only scored 2, I think, in the 47 games that he's been there. Sulemana, who's only at sort of Norgesland in Denmark previously, he's come in and I can just see him being another big export. If you consider like the caliber of player that Rennes have sold over the years, Ismaili Sarr, etc. This guy looks like the next one off the production line. So brilliant transfer from them, and I hope more people are talking about this guy down the line.
I like it. Sulemana, very much so. Yeah, I saw a clip of him on Twitter the other day doing an outrageous nutmeg as well. And then I think winning a penalty. So yeah, fair play to Sulemana and to Rennes. Hugely entertaining at the start of this season. But guys, we want to know, who is your most underrated signing of the season so far? And get all your suggestions, thoughts on Dzeko, who else do we talk about? Danjuma, Kyogo, etc. in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match preview. It's a big one. So there are some massive games all across Europe this weekend, particularly on Sunday, supplemented by Liverpool Man United as well. What a game that promises to be. But yeah, loads of action all across Europe. Atletico Madrid versus Real Sociedad. There's Le Clasique between Marseille and PSG. Roma versus Napoli. Inter Milan versus Juventus, the Derby d'Italia in Serie A. Bayern versus Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga, maybe not quite as large as those other ties I've mentioned. But having not talked about La Liga for a while in this section, and given it's historically such a massive game, I think we've got to talk about El Clasico. 2nd versus 7th in La Liga as it stands. Barcelona, Henry, got that much needed win in the Champions League on Wednesday.
Yeah, on a hot streak, aren't they? 2 wins in a row. So, I mean, they haven't actually played a whole lot of football recently, have they? Just 3 games in 21 days in October so far. So no kind of complaints there for them. They obviously lost 2-0 to Atletico Madrid, which I actually thought was slightly unfair on them. They created a lot of sort of the odd opportunity here and there. Coutinho could have almost gotten the score sheet, so it was a classic Atletico win, really, when you think about it. Then they had the international break. And then actually they got a 3-1 win over Valencia, which was sort of really huge for them, and beat Dinamo Kiev last night. Wednesday night, in terms of when this is being watched. And they were very dominant as well. You kind of hope so. 11 shots, 3 on target. Dinamo didn't get 1 on target. Fairly disappointing team. Very empty stadium, actually, I think it has to be said. Although that was partly to do with the early nature of the kickoff. It did kind of fill up a bit more over time. But I think if we take Valencia as more of a benchmark for how well they've been playing, we kind of began to see what they can sort of aspire to, I suppose. They went behind to a wonder strike. It really was sort of bouncing outside the penalty area. Just absolutely nothing you could really do about that.
I saw you loving that on Twitter, Henry.
I did enjoy that very much. Ansu Fati, though, I mean, that goal is so good. That interplay with Memphis Depay is something that I think every Barca fan can look forward to this season going forward. Slotted at home. Depay then gets on the score sheet as well. And then Coutinho, come on, back on the score sheet too. It's the 3rd time in 8 games that they've scored 3 or more goals. So they're slowly ticking along. They just need a bit of luck, don't they? They just need a bit of good fortune. And at the moment, like I said, against Valencia, 2.4 to 0.4 XG. It shows that they are capable of taking games by the scruff of the neck when they really do go for it. I think Fati coming back into that side is so important. I mean, 2 goals in 3 La Liga games already this season. He's averaged a goal contribution at a faster rate at Lionel Messi at the same age. I'm not going to read into that too much at the moment.
I am. He's the next Messi.
2 goals in 94 league minutes. All right, let's see. I don't want to paint anyone with that brush. I think it's so...
Henry's going to destroy another wonder kid.
Oh, God. Well, listen, he's had a long injury. It is pretty impressive to come back and play as well as he's doing. But yeah, 6 for shots per game. Kind of expect that. They're the most possession-heavy side in La Liga, but 4 for shots against. That's not good enough. It's not a total disaster. I see he's pursuing with Eric Garcia at the back and not playing my favourite, Ronald Araujo. I really think they need to start doing that. Although Araujo and Piqué are fairly similar in the way they sort of go out operating. So maybe having someone like Garcia, he's a bit more of a dynamic passer, can work quite well considering the possession that they have. Let's see how that plays out across the end of the season. If they win this game, they'll be 1 point ahead of Real Madrid and only 5 behind Sociedad as it stands with a game in hand. I'm not quite sure what the expectations are for Barcelona this season, but that's not a disastrous place to be.
Yeah, they've definitely picked up in the last 2 games. I actually thought they were pretty good against Valencia, especially after, as you say, conceding that early goal. Showed a lot of courage. The link up between Depay and Fati, I think, is what everyone's going to be rooting for in this game, as far as their hopes of getting a win against their old rivals. Macabres, Real Madrid, well, much more entertaining than Barcelona in midweek. I thought they were phenomenal against Shakhtar.
Yeah, quickly on Barcelona, you talk about the shots that are ranking 6th for shots per game, and I was looking at it the other day. They're taking 11.1 shots a game. Like, that's so low for Barcelona. And I know it's only been 2 months, but I think they're ranking below Getafe for shots a game. Which is pretty mad considering Getafe are bottom of the table with 0 wins, which probably suggests that the shots they are taking are not of a very high quality. But nevertheless, I was pretty struck by that. I think it just goes to show just how much work Lionel Messi was doing in that side in terms of shooting and creating and whatnot. Like, he's worth 6-7 shots a game on his own. So I was pretty kind of surprised at just how big a hole he's left. But nevertheless, I think Ansu Fati coming for them is massive. But yeah, Real also haven't played a lot of football recently. Their last La Liga game was a 2-1 defeat to Espanyol on the 3rd of October. And since then they've just had that Shakhtar win, and they were super impressive against Shakhtar. I thought, again, like we were saying earlier, I thought Vinicius was particularly impressive. Obviously got that brace and then created that great goal for Rodrigo as well. Yep. For me, I kind of said it at the start of the season, kind of tentatively, but I think they are the clear favourites now for La Liga. I think they've got the best strength throughout the side. You've got a player like Vinicius coming into his own now. I mean, he's got more goals in 11 games this season than he managed in 49 in 2021. And I think for a side that's been so over-reliant on Benzema in the forward line for the last 3 years, to finally have someone who can kind of match him in terms of being prolific essentially and providing a genuine goal threat from one of the flanks is massive. Because I think if they had, if a player like Hazard had actually come in and hit the ground running and not had those injury problems, if Gareth Bale hadn't been hadn't had kind of his troubles over the last few years and had actually kind of stayed at a level at least similar to where he was at his peak, then this Real Madrid side I think would have swept up La Ligas for fun in the last 3 years. And it just turns out that a kind of an above average amount of their kind of attackers just all dropped off all at the same time. You can include Marco Asensio in there as well. So I think to have someone like Vinicius and obviously someone like Rodrigo who is still developing kind of on the score sheet regularly is huge for them. They rank first for shots in the league, they're 10th for shots against, so the defence still needs some work, but I think the Ancelotti's pretty set on Alaba and Eder Militao as his centre backs, and I've not watched enough full Real Madrid games to really kind of make a verdict on them, but I think there are very few better players to learn from than David Alaba as a centre back if you're a young defender. So I'm really interested to see how their partnership develops. But they've only kept 2 clean sheets so far. 9 teams have conceded fewer goals, so that definitely is a bit of a worry for them. But nevertheless, I think if their attack kind of keeps on producing as it is, then I think they're going to just get stronger and stronger as the season goes on. And after this, they've got a pretty favourable run of games as well. They've got Osasuna, who are 5th, although they've had a superb start to the season. And they've got Elche, Rayo Vallecano, and Granada as well, who are struggling. So, I think this could be the perfect springboard for Real to take into the kind of second third of the season.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the title favourites. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with Atleti so far this season, at least in the league. Although I thought, to be fair, they were really brave against Liverpool on Tuesday night, having taken that 2-0, having gone 2-0 down. And they were really pushing for a winner, considering they were down to 10 men in the latter stages as well, which was really impressive for a Simeone side. And if they hadn't had Hermoso with that complete brain fade, just clattering into Jota with the ball nowhere near him, I've never seen something so stupid in my life, then they probably would have got a deserved point out of it. And they probably were quite unfortunate not to get a penalty as well for the Jota challenge on the other end, shortly after he won that penalty. But in terms of this game, in terms of Barcelona's injuries, well, Wague's out, Braithwaite's out, Pedri and Araujo are doubts supposedly. For Real Madrid, Ceballos and Bale are definitely out. Carvajal, Isco, Jovic and Hazard are always doubts. Not always doubts. Well, they actually tend to be doubts, but they are doubts in this one. Between Carvajal, Isco, Jovic and Hazard, I dread to think how many games they've missed with injury over the last 3 or 4 years. Might have something to do with the medical team, although I'm not totally sure on that. Don't shoot the messenger. but I think they should probably look into how they keep on getting so many muscle injuries. I mean, we did see that video go out of Real Madrid in the gym, I think it was last year, and it didn't look like they were necessarily putting in the max amount of work that you'd expect from professional footballers. Although videos can be very deceiving, so don't, as I say, don't shoot the messenger. In terms of their last meetings, well, Real Madrid have won their last 3 meetings, scoring 7 goals to Barcelona's solitary 2, but prior to that, they'd only won 1 of their last 10 matches, between the opponents losing 6. So the form has clearly changed in the last, couple of years, 18 months or so. But guys, it's time for the score prediction, the big one, El Clasico. Let's go to Henry's been kicking off every section so far. So McCubs, what do you think?
I'm sad to say I think it's going to be a Real victory. I think it's going to be like 2-1 to Real.
2-1. Simples. Henry, what do you reckon?
Yeah, that was what I was going to go for, I think. I agree. I feel like I should see Benzema scoring. For difference, I'm going to go for a Barcelona victory, 2-1, although I don't back that at all.
Wow.
I don't back that.
Love it. Fair enough. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Real Madrid win. I don't think it's going to be particularly entertaining, but I just think Real Madrid are going to cause Barcelona's defence a few more issues than vice versa. Guys, get your score predictions in the comments down below, and let's quickly move on to a quickfire question. Our quickfire question this week comes in from Dom Sullivan 18, and we briefly touched on them earlier in the show in the opening segments, but he has asked, can Ajax make another deep run in the Champions League similar to 2019? McCabs, what's your opinion on this? They are highly entertaining to watch.
Yeah, they've just been in amazing form, haven't they? I think they've only conceded 2 goals in like 12 Eredivisie games or something, so they're certainly showing the kind of form that they did in 2018-19. And I also kind of have a feeling that this might be Erik ten Hag's final season as well. I think he wants to go out, or he'd obviously want to go out, in a big way. The fact that he's been able to reconstruct, I mean, albeit with a lot of similar players, but I think there's 6 players who are no longer at the club who were part of that Champions League run. So they've lost a lot of those key men. To rebuild a side which once again looks like, I mean, by far the best side outside of Europe's top 5 leagues and one of the best sides in Europe in general. It's just testament to him, and absolutely, I think they can make it to the quarterfinals.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's a good shout. Henry, who has caught your observant eye in terms of their players?
Obviously, Anthony has looked pretty fun recently. Although in the Eredivisie he hasn't scored loads. I think he's only scored twice. If you consider how much transition there's been over a lot of the big clubs in Europe, perhaps excluding the top end of the Premier League, to have Ten Hag, who's been there for so long, to have that core players like Dusan Tadic, who just seems to get better and better, isn't it? What is it like? I think he's over 10 goal involvements in the Eredivisie right now. Scored again at the weekend. They've got a sort of familiarity which I think is so vital and important, and kind of why West Ham are doing so well in the Premier League at the moment. And they've also got a striker in form. Halle is 6 goals already in the Champions League. I think only Haaland is the only player to ever score that many in his sort of debut season in the Champions League. And I do think they're going to be a real threat against. They look like a team that can score goals against anyone they face at the moment, and they perhaps don't have the array of attacking talent which we saw previously when Ziyech was probably playing at his pomp in his Ajax shirt. David Neres, obviously a great player, etc. But they do have what they lack in attacking talent. They make up in a sort of very remarkable defensive core. Edson Alvarez and other players like that. Mazraoui as well. I mean, they're just a brilliant team, and I really hope. I love it when we see like an underdog like this go a bit further in the competition. I really hope it can be Ajax this term, because you could just see Amsterdam going off if they do well. It'd be awesome. Yeah,
it was a massive statement, and looking at the scenes before kickoff, even against Dortmund as well. I think it was I don't know whether it was the Dortmund fans or the Ajax fans, but with all the pyro and all the smoke going over the pitch, and Dortmund never seemed to wake up from a sort of smoky sort of nightmare, really. And Ajax were just all over them like a rash and thoroughly deserved the win. And I think you're right to call out some of their defenders as well. I think Tagliafico has been really consistent for a number of years. Edson Alvarez, as you say, Lisandro Martinez, who I'm a massive fan of as well, makes up for his deficiencies in height with a massive, massive heart, rarely beaten in the air, excellent long-range passer as well. I think he's a top centre-back. And yeah, there's some players in there that have come back from quite difficult, setbacks like Haller, Davy Klaassen as well. Tadic was sort of let go by Southampton quite happily to go to Ajax as well. And they've proved people wrong for a number of years now. And with young talent coming through like Gravenberch as well, who looks like he's going to have an enormous future in the game, they look really well set to go pretty deep in this year's competition. And with lots of the big teams looking pretty fallible outside of sort of, well, even Man City lost that game to PSG, but outside of Bayern Munich, Liverpool so far, although they had that, tricky game against Atletico Madrid. I don't think anyone wants to draw Ajax over 2 legs. They're probably not one of the favourites of the competition, of course, but yeah, I think a quarter-final is definitely achievable this year. But guys, where do you think Ajax can go and how deep do you think they can go in this year's competition? Let us know in the comments down below. And that's all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Let us know, as ever, your thoughts about it, how excited you are for us to be potentially filming in real life soon as well. Get away from Zoom. Finally, we can ditch Zoom permanently. And yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, let us know what you guys made of it. My Cubs, if they have enjoyed it, what should they go watch now in the Football Daily universe?
They should go and watch. Go to Football Daily. Obviously, United got a win last night as we're filming this, but we did make a video on the prospect of Antonio Conte. Would he be a good fit at Man United? Kind of go into the kind of tactical side and the man management side of his career. Go and check that out.
Nice. And Henry, you wrote something about Barcelona's youth stars, didn't you?
Yeah, sort of shining a light a little bit on why Gavi, players like that, Ronald Araujo are so good. I did see a comment which I think was completely legit, which is sometimes we have a tendency just to throw statistics at you without necessarily explaining why. Like, if you really want to see more, go and check out these continental clubs, because we really go into like what it means, what these numbers mean for these certain players, and try and put it into context for everyone to understand. So I think we'll all try and be better at that, and hopefully this script gives you an idea why Pedri, Gavi, etc. are so good. Nice.
So do you mean go check out the scout reports?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Fair. I mean, continue to check out the Continental Clubs as well. And scout reports and all our content across Euro Football Daily. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.